Hello, friends, and welcome to Coach Cut's Corner. Streaming bright from Michigan's capital city, this podcast is dedicated to helping you better understand the who, the what, and the why of mental performance, personal growth, and Lansing Stars baseball. Coach Cut's Corner, brought to you by Eyewash.
In collaboration with Lansing Community College.
And now here's your host, Stephen Cutter.
Welcome to Coach Cut's Corner. Thank you for tuning in and subscribing. Each week I aim to provide insights into our program and inspire you to challenge yourself, just as I continue to challenge myself. My goal is to help you enhance your life through these conversations. In addition to this podcast, I offer mental skills coaching for athletes at all levels, from the youth to professional. To learn more, visit CoachCutter.com. This morning in the WLNZ studios, I have our assistant coach, Jeff Allen. Welcome to the studios, Jeff.
Thank you.
You're somewhat becoming a co-host on this podcast, so that's a great thing. Oftentimes we do have our assistant coaches on here, and we'd like to talk about not only what we're doing in the program and in the community, but also about, more a little bit deeper topics as well. And today we're going to talk about the impact of that parents and role models and support systems play on athlete development, and kind of what that looks like, and some pitfalls to avoid, and some lessons we've learned along the way. I know my perspective is I've had children that have played sports, for quite a long time, and so I've been a parent. I've also been a coach, and I've got to see it from both sides of the fence, and it's a very, very large piece. We often think about like athlete development just being on what they do in practice, but the things outside of practice and the mentors that they have or that they don't have make a huge impact. So we're going to get in that, and we're going to have somewhat of a talking point of just the role that all these people play in supporting student athletes. So, you talked about this. Is there a reason why, as we were talking before we went live, does this resonate with you in some way?
Absolutely. I think that I've really had a lot of great role models and a great support system in my life. And it's come from all over the place, whether that be parents, grandparents, people in the community, teachers, coaches. Just I feel like not everybody realizes the impact that they're able to make, and some people it's a lot like when we were talking about leadership at the beginning of the year, where sometimes people are scared to take on that role just because they've never done it, but it's a learned skill. So I think that anybody's really capable of being a support system or a mentor to somebody, but it's just about having the right intentions going into it.
Yeah, when you start with athletes or student athletes, you start with the inner circle, and that's usually the parents, and the encouragement and support from the parents is what I feel is the most important. And in my time of coaching youth sports and in my time of being a parent, I know that I didn't do a great job of doing that as a parent. And so I was able to step back and kind of look and learn from the mistakes that I had made and think about things like, that's probably not real helpful. And when I did that, then I realized from a coaching standpoint that telling a kid to just throw strikes or just breathe, right, or, the things that we've probably talked about on this podcast a few times, weren't helpful. So what can be helpful? And it really starts with the inner circle and the parents. And parents provide a foundation for belief, and they provide that foundation that then gets transferred to the field when they play. So it starts there. And one of the bigger things when I was coaching at the youth level was just the balancing expectations.
Right. Yeah.
I felt like, if if my child scored, 20 points in a game, then I was a great parent. If my child did something great, I was great, and if my child didn't, I wasn't, great. And I realized down the road, thankfully it wasn't super far down the road, but learned that, that doesn't have anything to do with what type of parent I am. It's their skills that they're showing off right now, and the ability to be able to balance those expectations on, what's most important. And then obviously coming through with, positive reinforcement for that kind of thing. Since if you were a basketball player, I think the two biggest questions players get asked after a game is, did you win? And number two is, how many points you score.
Yeah. Yep.
And so it ends up reinforcing kind of the wrong things. Not that winning isn't super important in life and on the court or on the field, but there are more important things, especially at the younger ages. Maybe if you're getting paid to win, you can look at it just a little bit differently. But when you're trying to cultivate love into a sport, it's important to reinforce really the intrinsic stuff, and then if you don't, you're going to have some pitfalls. And I've certainly learned quite a few along the way. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, through all of this, I see a lot of similarities to what we talk about in the program as far as like playing to a standard, not a scoreboard, and that kind of goes along the same lines of what you were talking about, where it might not be all about scoring 20 points. It might just be about, okay, what did you plan on getting better at this week, and did you achieve that? What did you do to achieve that? Just kind of setting plans in motion for them,
and really don't want people that are listening to this to think, oh, it's just softness. It's like, just don't worry about scoring, don't worry about winning, but it's not that at all. It's deeper than that, and the standards, holding yourself to a standard, those standards can be really high. Yeah. They don't have to be super low standards, but if you keep your standards where they're more intrinsic based, you'll find typically that you're going to have some more success. And if you can have people in your close circle that can have those same standards, you're going to find that kids typically do better than kids that don't have that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think one thing that's really helped me with being able to kind of, and I don't know if everybody sees me as a mentor or a role model, but I try to be. And I think one thing that helps me with that is just being able to realize that, especially in the game of baseball is an extremely difficult sport. Mm-hmm. No matter if it's the defensive side, the pitching side, the hitting side, there's always going to be failures, but it's just about being able to take the lessons that you can from those and kind of move forward with it.
So we started inner circle. Now let's go outside that circle a little bit wider and talk about, how important the role models are as, guiding lights in what you're trying to do. And I know for me, this is deeply tied to my journey as a coach and as an individual. And when I thought about this, it's, my mom instilled the importance of perseverance and compassion, teaching me how to balance super high expectations with unwavering support. My grandpa Bob, he never missed a game when I was growing up, from football, basketball, baseball. He was always there. And what's neat about that is when I got, in my coaching journey, he was still coming to the games. He didn't know, certain any of the players, and so that was pretty neat. But he always kind of led with a quiet strength and humility. And then my Uncle Paul, his relentless work ethic showed me the value of pushing through challenges and never settling for less than, a word I use a lot now is excellence. And I think these figures shape not just my approach to life, but also how I aim to inspire the people that I'm around on an everyday basis. And so when we talk about role models as guiding lights, those are three people in my life, and I've had a lot of fingerprints, not only in my coaching journey on myself, but also in, fingerprints on me from before my coaching journey, and people that were role models. So those are three that were really stood out to me. I know you mentioned a couple at the beginning of the show, but man, the role models in your life are so impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've had tons of them. I mean, especially I feel really blessed to have come from my town, just because, growing up, my parents had me at a pretty young age, so I felt like I kind of grew up with them in a way. Not saying that they didn't give me any guidance or, demonstrate any of those role model traits, but there was a lot of help from the community with that, and I feel very lucky to have so many great people in my life that were willing to step in when, they didn't really need to. It was just out of purely wanting to see me do the best that I possibly could. So I think that's what I mean when I mention the intentions going into it is just out of the pure, I'm going to say the G word, but the pure goodness out of your heart. And I got 10. but yeah, I think that it's great to have those intentions and just wanting to better people's lives, no matter if they're close to you or not.
Yeah, that's very powerful stuff. And I do want to add that you can still get to where you're trying to go without role models.
Right.
But role models, and you can still get to where you're trying to go without family support. People have proven that time and time again, but you can make such a large impact with kids if you can provide them with support and be a role model and be encouraging, but then also provide them with standards. Like, this is where we need to be. You're not there yet, but these are the bricks you need to stack to get there.
Right.
And I'm going to support you through this, and I'm also going to hold you accountable when you're not stacking the bricks to get to that spot. And I think that when we were kind of talking about this, I thought about like some of the key qualities and role models that I had witnessed in my time of growing up, but then also in my time of coaching and watching parents, whether they're on the fence or in the bleachers, just kind of watching that piece of it, because that's always somewhat fascinated me. And then somehow through that whole process, I'm intentional about watching what other parents are doing and what they're saying or what they're not saying. And then, I go watch my daughter's high school softball games, and I'm sitting in left field,
Yeah.
away from the back of the fence. And, he doesn't like people, or whatever is getting said. And I'm like, well, actually, I don't think you understand. It's it's a lot of noise. But circling back to some of the key qualities of role models for me, and I think it's integrity, resilience, passion, and work ethic. Integrity involves doing the right thing even when no one is watching, and that really serves as a foundation of a word we use often, which is trust. Resilience shows in how they respond to challenges and setbacks, and modeling grit and things like determination. And passion really fuels the commitment and enthusiasm for what people are trying to do, and it also helps inspire them to pursue another great word, excellence. And there's definitely some key traits to role models, and they're for the most part pretty similar, and they really revolve around integrity, resilience, passion, and work ethic. So do you feel like that you've seen instances where on the maybe the bad side of the coin, where the the influence hasn't been great for kids in your time with coaching and playing? Have you had teammates that have had, because when I talk about great, I think we might think about the parent that's standing on the fence screaming at the kid because he just struck out. But I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about another word, and that's pressure.
Yes.
And pressure to perform. And if you don't perform, we're going to have a long car ride home. And we're driving right past that ice cream shop that you wanted to get, because we're going to go home, we're going to practice, and we're going to get this ironed out, because I'm not going to look stupid sitting in my bag chair while you don't perform. Have you seen that? Because I feel like, yes, I saw that. I was that person at one point too. I saw that at the little league level. I saw it at the high school level, and holy smokes, still see it at the college level.
Yeah. It never really goes away. I feel like I've had a lot of teammates that I've played with that felt an immense amount of pressure from their parents, where it's like, all right, if I don't get 2 hits today, Mom and Dad aren't going to talk to me for a week.
Did you feel pressure when you played?
At the beginning of my playing career, I would say in like early high school, I felt there was a lot of pressure, just because I knew that I had a goal of playing college baseball, and I knew that if I didn't perform, that it'd be kind of hard to do that. So I did put a little bit of pressure on myself, but I think my parents always did a decent job of being able to put things into perspective for me, that, it is a game of failure. You're going to fail. You're going to struggle, but it's just getting through that. I think that the pressure can kind of be silent at times too. If there's an instance.
What's that mean?
Well, I personally, I think of situations that I was in where I felt that pressure, where, at the beginning of the career, my dad might have, hey, you got 2 strikes on you. Why did you not expect a curveball coming? You got to hit that, So, not that he's saying that every at bat when I have 2 strikes on me, but when you get into that 2-strike count, the next time that voice is in the back of your head, oh man,
yeah,
Dad's gonna be mad if I miss this curveball. Yeah. So it's just about being able to break it down to the level that the people that you're trying to mentor or model things for are able to understand. So I think that I was able to kind of break out of that on my own, but not a lot of people are.
Yeah, and I think that circles back to how we started this podcast about the impact that it can make.
Yeah.
And you want to do your absolute best to not try to be perfect, because nobody is, but you want to do your best to try to be as impactful as you possibly can. And as parents, I mean, nobody loves their kids more than parents do, right. And so you want to try to do the best, but sometimes you get blurred by the outside noise. And I know, like, as a coach, I've tried to, like, really define, like, the skills that were most important. And I'm not talking about, how to hit a ball or how to throw a ball, and those are extremely important too. But I'm talking about, like, skills that go deeper, that have larger impacts to help you hit the ball or throw the ball or get up off the court when you've been knocked down. And I really think it's like 4 things. It's empathy, which basically means your ability to connect with people on a personal level. Yeah. And that's ties into the G word and actually using other words to describe how you feel. So there's connection there. And then communication, which I certain everybody understands how important communication is. Oh, yeah. And how detrimental things can be when you don't have great communication, and where our minds go to when we call somebody and they don't call us back. We assume there's something wrong, or they don't text us back. There's something wrong. But that's a breakdown in communication. So we automatically assume the worst, and it might not be that. That person might be extremely busy at that time when you're calling them, and then they just forgot, right? Because of all the noise that we have in our worlds. There's a lot of distractions, but then it's the consistency. As I say, consistency is a superpower, and the ability to stack bricks even when you don't feel like it. And then finally, it's just passion and dedication, and showing them that through consistency, empathy, communication, and through passion and dedication, that you can show an unwavering commitment to them.
Yeah.
And I think from a coaching standpoint, a parent standpoint, or anybody else, that's at least a solid brick to stand on and say, okay, well, we've got a chance to make an impact here.
Yeah.
In a positive way, because you're going to make an impact regardless. You know, people think that they're not making impacts, but you are making impacts. It sometimes you don't know that you're making an impact. You might not know for 5 years until the student gets out of the classroom,
Right.
or out of the high school or whatever. But you are making impacts, and it's either going to be positive or negative. And so take it and run with it. And that's kind of some of the why we want to talk about this, and how important the circles are, and give you some tools to start working on the same tools that we try to work on and try to get better at on a daily basis in our program.
Yeah, and I feel like that passion piece is a really important part of it, just because if you do kind of get a little bit over passionate about it, and might put a little extra pressure on somebody, at least that brick is there, that's building, and it's telling that player or person that you care. So if you have that passion there in the first place, and start to notice, all right, it might be a little bit overboard, might be putting a little extra pressure on them, you can dial it back a little bit from there. But just having that initial passion kind of builds that trust and lets them know that you care about their success. So I think that's a huge one for those traits and skills.
Very true. I think it would be sweet if our listeners could tag us on social media about some role models that they've had and the impact they've had. I think it's a really neat thing when you start thinking back on it and on your life and who made an impact. Sometimes reaching out to that person is a pretty neat thing for said person. I also know that Vince Lombardi said the measure of who we are is what we do with what we have.
I like that.
And you just take what you have and you do your absolute best with it. And if you can learn some tools and some skills, and you can learn some things to better impact people, whether it's just in your family or your team or just yourself, it's leads to a little bit more happiness in life. And I invite everybody to consider how you can become impactful in life, and you can do it with things like empathy and communication and resilience and all those things. And I'm going to finish with some final thoughts on impact, and some final thoughts on how important people's support systems are. And I'll kind of let you lead that a little bit.
All right. I think that the role that parents and role models and support systems play in an athlete's journey is very important. And I know we've talked a lot about it's oftentimes coming from those positions where they might be a coach, or might be a teacher, or somebody in the community. But I feel like I would be doing people a disservice if I didn't mention that the age and the spot in life where you're at don't really dictate whether or not you would be a great leader or role model or support system in those people's lives. I think that just being able to be there for them, have a little bit of emotional intelligence, see what they're going through, and kind of try to relate to them, that empathy aspect, and just have passion for their growth and development. I think that's something that could go a long way in somebody's life, and you might not even realize it at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Be sure to celebrate the impactful people in your life. Make winning in life your habit, not your goal. Remember, excellence is a daily practice, not just a prize. Build great habits and practices that serve you so you can serve others. And don't forget to cherish the small moments. They pass by in a blink of an eye. Until next time, thank you to all of our listeners. Ultimately, we're all playing a game we cannot win. So why not play it to the utmost, go all in, and go Stars. Coach Cut's Corner is recorded live in the WLNZ studios. Engineering and production assistance are provided by Dedalian Lowry. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please share it and follow us on all the platforms of social media. You can find more about our program at lccstars.com, and donations to our baseball program can be made at the same site. See you next time.